that we had came in this work. Instead of having things on a one-dimensional level, we are now doing things that are three-dimensional.
And where was the other one? Anyway, here's a close-up of the house down there and the outbuildings. We're not going to actually go take the walking tour because it seems like an awful lot of walking. And boy, we sure did a lot of walking yesterday. We're going on to Woodrow Wilson's birthplace. That's all for now. One of the outbuildings here at the Agricultural Museum here. Oh, they were from Ireland, Germany, and where else? I forgot the other one. But anyway, they came because of religious freedom, more or less. That's the reason they came to Virginia. This is porch in front of the Octagon Barn here at the American Museum and Cultural Center. And we're getting ready to go over to Woodrow Wilson. These people came from Scotland, Ireland, and Germany. And that barn is in the shape of an octagon. And they're, looks like they're painting it right now, because I see a painter up there on it. But they build all those barns in the shape of an octagon, like a stop sign. That's all for now. Getting ready to go into Woodrow Wilson's birthplace. We walked the wrong way, of course, at first. But now we've got it right, huh? This is the house that he was born in. It says Woodrow Wilson's birthplace. We're getting ready to go in there and take a tour or see whatever. But this is where he was born. And this is in Staunton, not Tennessee, Virginia. Staunton, Virginia is where we're going. That's where we're at today. And today's Thursday, May the 10th, I think. That's all for now. This is on the inside of the museum. And there's President Wilson's Pierce Arrow car. Forrest definitely wanted a picture of that. We're on a tour of Woodrow Wilson's birthplace.
At his adult life. And now we're going to go back to 1850, where he was born. And everything in the house is of the 1850 period. There are pieces of the Wilsons I'll point at as we go through. Now the house is Greek Revival in architecture. There are 2 stories in the front and 3 in the back, which is very typical of this area of Stanton with our hills. If you walk around at all, you know we are right hilly. Anybody would like to ring that doorbell, they can certainly do so.
We're on the balcony up here at Woodrow Wilson's house. We have a bird's eye view up here. We're out here on the porch.
And their Stanton has always had great pride in it. So, and they just seem to come from everywhere. It's great.
This is the
Isn't this a beautiful place?
Oh, yes.
And when, you think of 4,000 people getting here, this would have just been more meadow land between here and the church. Now, the steeple that you see straight in front of us is the present Presbyterian Church. That was built in about 1879. And the church that the Wilsons served was directly across the street in that grove of trees. The administration building up there was founded in 1842. And the church that the Wilsons served was right beside it. Unfortunately, in 1960, it was declared unsafe and torn down. The 1960s were kind of tear me down idle years. And today they would have found a way to have saved it no matter what. But now to the right, all of this is Maryborough College today. It's a 4-year liberal arts girls' school.
Oh, it's girls?
All girls. It's still oriented with the Presbyterian Church, but it's not funded through them.
We're on James Madison's, this is called Mount Pelier. This is where he lived. All I'm seeing right now is we're going over a bridge. I really can't tell much about it because I guess he lived way off the road, these trees up here somewhere. I'm going to cut off the home of James Madison at Montpelier. He was one of our presidents. His wife's name was Dolly. And we're going on this tour of the house. I don't know whether they'll let me take videos in there or not, so I thought I'd get it before we went in. We'll see whether or not they let me take them. That's all for now. Running. All you have to do is look at me and press.
Okay.
Or you don't have to press.
Just look at you? Okay. There's Brenda. She's going towards, I can't think what this president's house is. What's this president's house?
James Madison.
Yeah, this is James Madison's mansion. He's one of the presidents, I don't know which one. I guess that is for now.
So,
This is inside Material.
this section you're standing in right here,
Let's see when it's
in this section
Valerie
here.
and James Madison.
And this goes, this end of the house was 2 rooms at one time. In fact, back in the corner, if you look at this opening here, you can see where the wall came across back here against the chimney. And so these were 2 small rooms, and the front doorway here did not exist at the time. In fact, there was a hall that ran straight through here. And you can look through the front door, which is a triple window on the front porch now, straight out the back door. So it was a Georgian, it was a Georgian style home. And the back, one wall was right there where that cabinet is, and it was that side, and it ended where this archway is. That was all the bigger the house was, it was 8 rooms. And then in 1797, James Madison added a 30-foot addition onto this side, so down where those 2 doorways are, that section was added on. And he had a duplex here for the first so many years of the house that he added. There was no doorway on this wall for a while. So he lived over there with Dolly and her son Jane until 1809. In 1809, this is the front door on. He added this room, or enlarged this room with the hallway. He put arches on both sides of that hallway. And if you look around the corner there, you can actually see where the original archway was. And so you go either way into the house, and then they put 1-story wings on the road into the house. So the room down the end of the hall was one of the ways. And it looked just like this when you
President Madison actually would have made 1
Oh,
story.
those are steep stairs.
This was for his mother. He did the same on the north end of the house for Dolly. And of course, it has evolved through the years. The last owner doing this decoration.
It's big, wasn't it? These were really big rooms. Beautiful though. Pat would have a ball with this. Trying to fill it. I think that's the biggest one I've ever seen.
Actually, thought it might be 1 or 2.
Look at that mirror over there and that chandelier. Beautiful. This must have been his gaming room, because, or either that or he loved horses, because I've never seen so many pictures of horses in all my life. Beautiful mural there. I'm glad they've got fans going, that kind of helps it. There's Forrest looking at all the horses again. There's Randolph Scott, he must have known him, huh?
Tour's ready.
Oh, is it? Okay, let me, all right. Okay. Said the tour was ready. All right. Outside or?
movie is getting ready to start, as is the back, the tour on the back door.
Okay.
All right, I think we have a small group here, and that's great. And I'll try to talk loud enough so all of you can hear me. This is called the Behind the Scenes Tour, and it really encompasses about 2 rooms upstairs in the house, and there'll be 2 areas downstairs, which the normal tours don't cover. And while I'm covering those, I'm going to also talk a little bit about James Madison and Dolly and give you some background about them and the estate. I'll probably cover a little bit more than what's normally talked about, simply because some of you do not have the acoustic guides. Other of you that do have the acoustic guides, they don't cover some of the things that I'm going to explore with you. If you have any questions throughout the tour, just let me know and ask them. My name is Bob Carr, by the way, and so we'll be together about a half hour. Okay? The Montpelier was first settled about 1723. Ambrose Madison, the grandfather of James, acquired this land. And after a few years of clearing it and working it, they built a house called Mount Pleasant, which is a half mile from here, down near the cemetery, just beyond where most of you all parked. And it's called Mount Pleasant, and he built a house there in 1732. And we now have excavation digs going on down there. We're trying to find the foundation for the original house. We found the foundation for the kitchen, but we have not found the foundation for the house yet. So this summer we're going to have a group of students, archaeological students, working with us digging, see if they can locate that. So that's just beyond where your cars are parked, and that's called Mount Pleasant. And that house was built in 1732. Shortly after Ambrose moved into the house with his wife, Frances, he was mysteriously killed and poisoned, and he was only about 32 years old at the time. His eldest son, James Madison Sr., built the first house on the property that we're now standing. Now I'm going to try to do this from the back of the house, and then you can, a little bit later on your own, you can go to the front and you'll see what I mean. This doorway right here, if you take it all the way to the front of the house, the front porch, there's a triple hung window in the front porch. And that was the original passageway for the 1760 house. If you've been in the house yet, and you've been in Mother Madison's sitting room, and that passageway, which we have the Afro-American display there, that is the original passageway. So in the 8-room house, there were 4 rooms upstairs, 4 rooms downstairs. The main hallway that you walked into were 2 downstairs rooms, and on the other side, Mother Madison's sitting room in the back hall were the other 2 rooms. So that was in 1760, 8 rooms, pretty good sized house for that time. Now James Madison Sr. was quite a successful farmer, and he was also quite a successful merchant. He bought and sold goods from Europe, and he also had an ironworks in front of the house where they made a lot of materials for farm equipment. So he was pretty successful in the way he put things together. And remember, this was a plantation, and at one time there were 100 slaves that worked on this particular location. In 1797, James Madison Jr., the president, knew that he was going to inherit the house. So what he did is he added 30 feet, or 4 rooms, on the north side of the house. And that back door over there was the back end of the passageway from the 1797 house. If you were in the new dining room yet, I don't know how many you were, but to the left you see a false screen, and that depicts that passageway. So that was 1797, and that was 4 more rooms that were added onto the house. Then it was in 1809 that he added, James and Dolly added 2 wings onto the house. And the model in the front hall shows that best. One of the wings was Dolly Madison's bed chambers. The other wing was Mother Madison's bed chambers. Each one of them had a kitchen underneath, because then at 1809 they finally got fire insurance, and they were able to put kitchens underneath. Before that, the kitchen was on the south side of the house food had to be prepared and be brought into the house from that standpoint. So in the drawing room, there's a very good evolution of the house, which if you have time, take a look at that. It'll explain more thoroughly what I did. I wanted to just give you a real quick synopsis. In 1809, 1810, the house had 14 rooms, 12,000 square feet. When the DuPonts bought the house in 1900, they enlarged it to about 55 rooms, like it is now, or 65,000 square feet. So they really enlarged on it tremendously. This portico, though, in the back was added on the house in 1809. And that's as it looked in 1809, and it's still in good shape. And that tried to match the portico on the front side of the house. So I wanted to kind of give you a glimpse of the evolution of the house, the evolution of the family, before we move into the house. Any questions at this point?
That's not the original roof.
No, that's not the original. I think the original roof was.
How old was he when he died?
85.
85.
All right, we said behind the scenes, and this is certainly behind the scenes. This was Dolly Madison's sitting room. This was her bed chambers. And one of her friends, Margaret Bayard Smith, came here and said this was a large, commodious room filled with every convenience, much elegance. Doesn't look like it now. But we have all the records that indicate the colors of the draperies, the types of beds, the couches, and everything that she had in this room. And we're going to restore this room. It's over $1 million to do it, and in 2 or 3 years. Hopefully when you come back, you'll see this room restored just like the dining room was restored. And this, I want to show you here, this was the original brick here. This newer brick indicates that's where the fireplace was in the original room. This was a window here, and where the cabinets are, they weren't there. I mean, that wall was not there. The outer wall to this room was in the hallway. Okay. So you can see it's a much wider room than what it depicts right now. Behind you, you can see the original lathing. Those little slats up above there where they put the plaster on. Those are all hand hewn. So those are from the early 1800 period. And the doorway there leads from this room into the dining room. Now, when you're in the dining room now, you just see some ducts because we had to put air conditioning system in there. But really, to get in her room in those days, you would walk from the dining room into a couple powder rooms, not bathrooms, powder rooms, and then into here. And so when we redo this, we'll probably try to modify and show some of that also. Dolly was born in Guilford, North Carolina in 1768. When she was just an infant, her parents decided to move to Scotchtown, Virginia. And they were Quakers, and they lived in Scotchtown for a while. In 1783, her father decided to move to Philadelphia. So he sold his slaves, and he moved to Philadelphia to start a starch factory. He thought he could make a go of it in producing starch. In 1790, Dolly met John Todd, who was a Quaker attorney, and they got married, and they had 2 boys. And they were doing well until 1793, when there was a large yellow fever epidemic that hit Philadelphia that killed thousands of people. Among them was her husband, John Todd, and one of her children. And they died on the same day. And she lost a lot of other relatives, as did a lot of people at that time. So then she, in 1794, through a friend, Aaron Burr, she had met James Madison. And a few months later, they got married, 1794. James adopted Payne as his own son. They had no children of their own, even though they were married 42 years of their life. Now, Payne, over his lifetime, became a PAIN. He was
He was a royal
alcoholic,
pain. Oh.
and he became a gambler, and all through his life, and Dolly and James enabled him. They bailed him out from time to time, the equivalent of $40,000, which is like $500,000 in today's wages. And it was one of the reasons why towards the end of James's life and Dolly's life, they really just about used all the money that they had. And then I said that Dolly had left Montpelier at heart. She made a decision of the heart, leaving this in the hands of Payne, because he continued to sell off land and slaves to pay for some of his debts. So by the time James died, there was a 9-year drought. Payne kept selling off property. So in 1844, Dolly had to sell off Montpelier in the sheriff's auction. And everything was sold. I mean, the land, the pictures, the furniture, the slaves, everything. There wasn't anything left. She got about $29,000 for it, and she had to use all that to pay off a lot of her debts. So she continued to live in Washington. In 1849, she passed away, and she, Zachary Taylor said it best, she was the first lady. You see, she was extremely effervescent, extremely charming, the hostess extraordinaire. And when Thomas Jefferson became president in 1801, his wife had passed away. So he asked Dolly, he said, will you be the hostess of the White House? James was Secretary of State. So she said, I'd love to. And then James Madison was president for 8 more years, so she was the first lady for 16 years. And that's why they called her first lady. She would have these wonderful Wednesday drawing rooms where she would invite visitors to come to the White House. They called it the President's House then, to visit with her and friends. So she was extraordinary as far as her charm and being a hostess, and that continued when they moved back here to Montpelier in 1817. That backyard, as you saw how beautiful it was, they would have wonderful barbecues back there, hundreds of people, and they would just lay out tablecloths and have a marvelous time. On a day like this, it would just be fantastic. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about Dolly and a little bit about Payne, and when we get upstairs, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about James himself. Any questions? His house. And we are standing right over the central hallway that you came in that we call the drawing room. And the flooring is as it was in 1760. The fireplace is original to the house. The fire surround is. So this is pretty much, and of course when the DuPonts came, they made wallpaper and everything. We took that off to get down to their bare bones to kind of show you how the lathing was and that this is the original construction of the 1760s house. We have some pieces in here, like this cabinet right over here was made in Fredericksburg in the late 1700s for James Madison Sr. We're not sure it was in this room, but we know it was in this house. This was a slant-back desk that James Sr. had. You see a lot of these like in the Jefferson home and the Monroe home at the same time. That's a chair that was brought over from France by James Monroe. You see James Madison was ill, please don't touch this word, thank you, ma'am, was ill most of his life, and he was afraid to go to Europe. He didn't want to get sick either on the ship or when he was over there. So when his friends would go there, the Jefferson, the Monroes, and others, he would ask them, you buy this piece of furniture or these dishes or whatever it is, and bring them over. So most of the things that came from overseas were bought by other people for them and brought here. In this other room, you can notice somebody asked about the stairways, like maybe it was in the other room. But you can see those narrower boards. That was the stairway coming up in the original house. And you can see it's a rather small area for it coming up. Go ahead and take a look.
Did you see that?
Years to be tutored at King Queen County here in Virginia by Donald Robertson. He then came back here for 2 more years of tutoring, and then in 1769 he and his dad sat down to start talking about where he was going to college. And of course, he looked at his options, whether he had a hockey scholarship, or football, or basketball. Nobody get any of that? Anyway, his choices were primarily William and Mary, and he didn't want to go there because it was very hot in the summer, and also they were going through some change in administration. So he ended up going to the College of New Jersey, which is Princeton, and he loved it. And he devoured the subjects, he devoured the books, the friendship of the students, and the friendships of the teachers. Came back here after 3 years, and then he didn't quite know what he wanted to do. Now this was 1772. Didn't know what he wanted to do, be a lawyer, be a farmer, a businessman. So he worked a few years at the department or the Committee of Safety in Orange County. Then was a delegate to the Virginia Convention for a couple of years. And then in 1780 went up to Philadelphia. He was elected as a delegate to the Continental Congress. That's where he sunk his teeth into politics and government building. He realized he was really good at that with all the knowledge he had. Came back after 4 years, and then he was elected to the Constitutional Congress in 1787. Now he took with him, he was well prepared, he took with him the Virginia Plan, which was a tripartite plan made of executive, judicial, and legislative. We all take this for granted because that's the way our central government is organized, but then that was not ever heard of. But he took that, presented that to the Congress, and he spoke from the floor about 160 times during that 4 or 5 month period. A lot of people, a lot of the delegates wanted to keep changing the Constitution as they were going through it. And he, towards the end, said, look, let's get a package that most of us agree on. We'll talk about changes later. The same principle now we hear when congressmen are talking about, let's get this bill through. And when they want to tag this on, they want to tag that on. Anyway, they signed it. It wasn't ratified yet. So then he helped write 29 of the Federalist essays. There were another 51 written by Alexander Hamilton. These were essays in newspapers to the states that had not ratified the Constitution yet. And then that helped get it ratified, and then he was the leader of the first National Congress, which wrote that he helped write the first 13 Bill of Rights or the amendments. And that's why he is called the father of the Constitution. Now, while the Constitution of Congress was going on, he was taking notes, copious notes, taking notes. He told Jefferson, he said, this almost killed me to take all these notes. His thought was, we'll have tremendous records, which we do. And he said, also, when I die, Dolly can sell all those notes, and that'll be good for her retirement. Well, part of that worked. I mean, they sold